Hello everybody, it is Grandmaster Hawk. Now that we finally have our first look and gameplay overview of BLEACH Rebirth of Souls, I will be doing my first breakdown analysis of it, or deep dive if you would rather call it that. So, without any delay, let's get right into it. Alright, the first thing we will cover is cutting down your opponent's Reishi. The Reishi gauge is basically the health gauge in this game, but I would say that this probably takes second priority instead. The reason why I say that is because at the top here where these numbers are, we have something called Kampakus. I don't know if this is actually something in the Bleach manga or not because I've only watched the anime. I have not read the manga, but Kampakus are basically your lives during the battle, and each player seems to so far start off with 9, and we don't know if this is going to vary from character to character, like if, say, Rukia or Chad or Orihime, if she's playable in this game, will start off with less, or if some characters like, I don't know, Zaraki will start off with more, but pre-selected 2 Kampakus each time the players get into the game. You will have the ability to take more than 2 away at the end of each battle, and it may or may not be tied to the EX meter gauge. Basically, what I'm theorizing is that the more EX meter you've built up, the higher the chance of you being able to take down more than the pre-selected Kampaku, so you can do Soul Destruction for 3, which you will see. But at the moment, I will cover something else while we're here. So while we're doing that, we do see that the EX meter goes up by increments of 1, and we're seeing 2 different types of attacks here. So right now we're seeing the white streak attacks, and then Ichigo finishes this combo with a yellow streak attack. I'm going to assume that whatever the attack buttons are, there probably are 2 of them. One is for regular attacks, which are white streaks, and the second one is for heavier attacks, which are yellow streaks. At least in Ichigo's case, it's yellow, because I'm pretty sure Byakuya's is pink whenever he's attacking, because of Senbon Sakura. So now we will move on to... Actually, no, we won't move on yet. So I just want to point out that while your EX meter is building up in increments of 1 with the white streak attacks, okay, I lied. We're moving on to the next one. Just to cover this part really quickly, Byakuya seemed to use maybe a special move. I'm not entirely certain, but we do see here that as Ichigo gets hit by whatever Byakuya's move is, he goes from 36 to 38 in EX meter. So some attacks that you take will end up going up in increments by 2 rather than just 1. And then over here, we get to see Ichigo blocking an attack. We'll cover how many increments his attack goes up by, as well as the stamina gauge, which is right here. You can see it in the top, just under the Reishi gauge. And we're going to cover something very important about this a little later on in the video. But you can see that as he's blocking Byakuya's attack, it goes up by 1, 1, and then 2. Let me run that back again really quick. So it goes up by 1, 1, and then 2. So 29 to 30, 31, 30 to 31, and then 31 to 33. The reason why I'm thinking that happens is because Byakuya probably did some kind of auto combo, and if you manage to block the auto combo, unless it was maybe a heavy attack as a finisher, because you might be able to combo into heavy attacks while using regular attacks, that's probably why Ichigo's EX meter went up by 2 rather than 1 there. And you can also see, as Ichigo's blocking, how much stamina that's taking, so you will have to be very conscious of your stamina gauge, and even more so, soon you will see why once I get to the stamina gauge at a certain point in the video. Alright, right after Ichigo finishes blocking Byakuya's hits, I need to point something out really important here. So you can keep an eye on their health gauges, or Reishi gauges rather, and the stamina gauge, as well as their EX meter. So by this point, Ichigo's already got 1 meter, enough to do all-out slash. Byakuya's also got 1 meter, enough to do whatever his specials are. But the problem here is that, so you do see 2 problems actually. First of all, neither of their evolution meters, which are tied to doing Bankai, are even remotely full. And also, it would appear, unless this little sliver there, let me press play for a moment, Ichigo's stamina gauge is completely gone. So I don't know how much blocking was happening between the time of the first segment and this, because this is presumably the same match, it's just that the editing is all over the place, but the stamina gauge is gone. And believe me when I say that it's going to be gone for literally the remainder of the match. I don't know why that is, but we will move on to the next part here. Ichigo starts a combo with the yellow streak attacks, excuse me, which I assume are the heavier attacks. And each time he connects one, actually, his EX meter is going up by increments of 2. So we go from 53 to 55, 55 to 57, 57 to 59, 59 to 61, and then the final one for 63 and 65. So depending on depending on whether or not you start a combo with your heavy attack button, you will go up in increments of 2. The reason why I think this is going to be relevant is because I'm still positive, or just theorizing so far, but positive about my theory that the EX meter is going to be tied to how many Kampakus you can take off of your opponent at the end of each round. So we see here, he finishes off the combo, and then of course, yeah, he takes out Byakuya here, which does a hell of a lot of damage, by the way. Now, we can see here that he's got, I think, enough meter, because, just for one thing, and he does Soul Destruction here, now or never, Soul Destruction, and takes off, I believe, 3 Kampaku, right? Yeah, he goes for break opponent's Kampaku. Fast forward just a little bit to Soul Destruction 3. This brings Byakuya down from 9 to 6. And then we come here to this part, and already we see Byakuya's got a little bit of the evolution gauge there. Ichigo's got still practically nothing. And Ichigo's stamina gauge is nowhere to be found. So I'm not really sure what's happening. Like, if you lose your stamina gauge, it's gone permanently for the remainder of the game, which means you cannot block anymore. So you have to find out if your character has any other defensive options, like using Kido, for example. I can't remember if that's actually the name. That's just the name one of my subs gave me when I was asking about the abilities that you use typically for chanting. So the stamina gauge is completely gone. Barely lost any health on either Byakuya's or Ichigo's part, but you can see both of them have 150 EX meter. So I'm going to assume that if you manage to perform Soul Destruction at the end of a round, maybe, just maybe, you get put up to like 150 EX meter? That wouldn't really make much sense, but we are left to assume that this is the exact same match that we started with. So let me take a look at my thing here, my notes. For this next part, I'm pretty sure this is just cinematic, but it would seem that maybe Ichigo used some kind of charged heavy attack, unless this is just some kind of special combo ender, because not only does it take a healthy chunk of Byakuya's health here. Decent chunk. It knocks him back pretty far, and then Ichigo charges up his move. And I assume that it does some kind of skipping. Let me double check. Yeah, maybe there's some kind of cinematic between this frame and this frame that we don't see, or maybe it just charges up a lot before Ichigo releases it, and then of course we see the block. We see Byakuya recover on the air there, and then he manages to block Ichigo's sword attack. Back to covering the EX meter for a moment. If you are hit by a spiritual pressure move, in this case we don't actually know which one Byakuya is using, but the gauge is lit up, and I'm going to assume maybe he's using that won't touch me, because this looks like a move that would say not won't touch me. But Ichigo getting hit by this move, whatever move it was, does not contribute to his EX meter, so that's something that we have to look out for. And then, of course, here, we do see that Ichigo uses, you can see how his EX meter will go from 108 down to 58. He used, I believe, all-out slash, and I say all-out slash because you'll see an example on screen. We saw from the Ichigo Kurosaki trailer what his other spiritual pressure move was, which is called wielding, and it's, this move here. So here we see all-out slash. He uses all-out slash. Of course, it lands. And something else to note here, besides the crazy amount of damage that did, was that Byakuya has his reverse gauge activated at this point here, and you can see that any health that you haven't actually lost technically recovers, or it's supposed to. You can see it slowly regenerating here, I believe. Okay, now I can talk a bit more about the Reishi gauge here. I'm going to be using 2 frames for comparison, so let me just grab them really quick. So we know that the Fighting Spirit gauge, aka the Evolution gauge, required for going Bankai, only fills up depending on how much damage you've taken so far, or it appears to be. And my theory is that there has to be a good chunk of it that fills up after the end of each round when Soul Destruction is performed, because this gauge fills up way too slow. And if you see here, Ichigo's got a full reverse gauge, Byakuya's currently in reverse, and then of course on this frame he's out of it. Ichigo's got 103 EX meter, on this frame he's got 147, on this frame he's completely out of reverse meter, and over here Byakuya is also out of it and doesn't have any EX meter either. Now between this frame and this frame, Byakuya lost a lot of health. His stamina gauge seems to have been either untouched, or maybe it just regenerated because Ichigo didn't do a whole lot of damage to him, or during whatever happened between here and here. And Ichigo went from being on red bar to like a sliver of health, while Byakuya went from being very healthy all the way down to this, and somehow he's got his evolution gauge to go Bankai. Now, again, I'm not sure how this is going to function, but I will say now that this game is going to be very strategic in the sense that you want to actually get yours and your opponent's health down probably as much as you can in order to go Bankai, in order to fill up this gauge, because once you've done that, that's when both players or one of you will really shine in Bankai in battle. Because once you've done that, your reverse gauge will also be there, and you will actually open up one of your gauges to doing, open up one of your gauges again for an extra reverse gauge. I will fast forward this because I think here is where Byakuya uses Awakening. Yes, we do. We see that. So if you see here, now that he's gone Bankai, that whole gauge has opened up. So instead of just having 2, he's got 3. So we've got 3 reverse gauges now, and that's why I was saying that the Fighting Spirit gauge, filling this up and achieving Bankai is when your battle will really shine, when your character will really shine, because that's when you'll get access to Flash Step and whatever the other thing was. I think it was called Reverse Skill or something. But you can see the difference here. I'm not going to reverse for Byakuya right now. But you can see here, Ichigo's still not in Bankai. This third part of his gauge is not open, but because Byakuya has gone Bankai, therefore it is open. So we do want to focus as much as we possibly can on the Fighting Spirit gauge, aka Evolution gauge, for going Bankai. And while we're here, you can see that as soon as he's gone Bankai, he automatically has 3 Konpaku selected in order to take down. And at the end of this, we do see that he does Soul Destruction to take out 4 of them, and then of course Ichigo goes Bankai here, and then once we get back into the battle, you can see that Ichigo is down to 2, and Byakuya is down to 6, and also automatically has 3 Kompaku ready to be taken out. Also down here you can see that his EX meter is maxed out, and his reverse gauge has been given a 3rd one. Alright, so for the remainder of this video, I will just let Ichigo's Bankai and everything play out. So what we know so far is that Kompaku and the Reishi gauge are basically your 2 health bars for this game. You want to focus as much as you can on filling up your Reishi gauge, sorry, not your Reishi gauge, your evolution gauge, your fighting spirit gauge in order to achieve Bankai. Because once you've achieved Bankai, then you'll actually be able to take out more of your opponent's Kompaku. And of course, thereby winning the game. But once you've achieved Bankai is when you'll actually be able to, I believe, activate your reverse gauge. I'm not saying that you can't activate it before that, but you would benefit much more from holding on to your reverse gauge and activating it after you achieve Bankai, unless it's actually easy to replenish. Because then you'll get access to Flash Step, which I believe takes like maybe, I want to say 10 to 15% of your reverse gauge, and since you'll be getting 3 of them opened up once you've achieved Bankai or activated Bankai, I mean, you don't have any reason not to use it, right? So you'll want to be activating that reverse gauge, not just for health regeneration, but also for getting your Flash Steps and, you know, have a real Soul Reaper battle. Anyway, I think I will end the video there. I hope you all enjoyed. You can see here that Ichigo now performed a 4 Kompaku Soul Destruction, bringing it down to 2v2. So again, I will end the video there. I will be covering Bleach Rebirth of Souls on my channel. So if you are new here and you liked what I did, consider, you know, hitting the like button. Maybe also consider hitting subscribe. I do enjoy Bleach. I will be covering all of the relevant information, or what I believe to be relevant information, on my channel for this game. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care and have a great day.